Welcome to part 2 of the online registration functionality for Swim Team US. In part 2, we're going to talk about which forms, or adding the forms to your registration process, and adding the fees and some other things to your registration process. In part 1, we looked at the user perspective of all the forms, so you should have seen all the forms by now. Well, the question is, how do we get those to be part of the process? And so first I'm going to sign in. And once I sign in, we'll go to the site console. And once I get to the site console, I'll click on the console tab. Down here under team administration, I'll hit registration admin. And here is where you're going to find all of the registration setup features, as well as the tracking or processing features. And today, in part 2, we're going to talk about managing the forms that are part of your registration process, the fees, and we're going to talk about age group limits, which can also impact the fees. So we'll start with the manage forms, and we'll open up that window, and you can see from part 1, these are all the forms that we covered. There's 7 possible forms: the parent form, the roster or swimmer form, the waivers, the volunteers, selling your products, and then the review and checkout, and finally the confirmation page. Now, at minimum, you probably are going to have the parent and swimmer form, the review, and confirmation pages. All the other pages are really much more optional. Most people would include the waivers. The volunteer and products forms are definitely optional, and some people like to have those in, or some people choose not to bother during the registration process. There is some setup involved, and you have to be ready to do those things. So in terms of the setup process, you may want to skip that if you want to turn on your online registration more quickly. The other important thing here, so turning them on and off, by the way, you'll just click the check boxes on or off, and then you save, and the forms that are not checked will not appear in the registration process. The other important note that I pointed out in part 1 is the header on every form is customizable, where you can provide additional instructions to your families. And you can do that right here by even just previewing the notes. You can see exactly what it will look like. If you want to edit the notes, you can edit the notes for every page right here on this form. So if I wanted to change the notes that are part of the parent form, I'd click on that, make any changes I want to make, then I can hit OK, and then save. So my changes will be saved. So I can edit all the notes for all my forms right here. Once you've selected the forms that are going to be part of your process, we can close that, and we can talk about fees. So the most basic part of setting up fees, number 1 is, are you going to have fees or not? And many people set up online registration just to capture information and prefer not to deal with the money via the website, and that's fine. And so you can just check no fees, hit save, and you're done. No fees will not be a part of this process. But for those of you that do want to capture fees, here you can do that. Make sure that's unchecked. And the next thing you'll want to do is perhaps decide what your payment options will be. So I can hit payment options, and you can see there are basically 3 options. Do I want to accept checks, which is the pay later button. Checks also could mean cash. It just means they're going to pay you in person. You could do a member number. Some clubs allow families to pay by member number. You can do that here. And finally, you can accept credit cards. Here I have some information about the credit card fees, so you can see how much that costs. And then the other choice you have to make is, who's going to pay the credit card fees? They're really unavoidable. If you're going to accept credit cards, you have to pay the credit card fee. But the question is, will the team pay the fee, or will the parent pay the fee? If the team pays the fee, then your $100 registration fee, for example, you're not going to collect all 100. You're going to lose the credit card fee and only receive in the range of $96.30. However, if you want the parent to pay the fee, your $100 registration fee will become $103.80 approximately for the parent, where the team will still get the $100, and the credit card fee will have been added as a convenience fee to the parent. So once you make your selections, you can hit save. Your payment options will be saved. Now, once you've done that, Oops, save was successful. Now, once you've done that, we can look at the actual fees you're going to charge. And you'll notice here there's basically two tiers of fees, the member and non-member. That may or may not be the correct terminology for you, but the labels here are not changeable. But you'll know what they are. It's either going to be member, resident, perhaps county, inside the county, outside the county, whatever it may be. Many teams have two tiers of fees. Now, if your team does not have two tiers of fees, it's highly recommended that you place the same fees in both columns as such. Note that if you leave a field blank, in this case the fourth swimmer is blank, that means the fourth swimmer will pay $130. If you want the fourth swimmer to be free, you must type in a 0. Okay? And finally, you can have a family cap. And that means that if the family, say, has 5 or 6 swimmers, but you want to have a cap of $400, you can do that, and that will limit the fees, the actual registration fees, to that amount. Now, there are some other settings you can use here to manage a more complex fee environment. One of the things you can do is to set up late fees here, and so you can set up a new set of fees. Right now, we're in the default fees. But I could set up a new set of fees. I could call it late fees. And I can say that it's going to be late anytime after, say, February 19th. And I'm going to set up my fees here. And, well, I'm going to have to add new. Let's call it late fees. I'm going to say that after, well, let's just say May 1st, 2015. After that, we're going to have a different set of fees. So you can see this cleared out when I hit add new, and instead of the 150, I believe we're going to charge 175. And in fact, we're going to charge 175 for everybody, so I can do that way. And then when I save that, now I've got 2 sets of fees. Oops, end date. Okay, no problem. I'll say June 30th, 2015. Hit save. Okay. And here we are. So now if I look at my fee set back here, you can see I have default fees, which is what I'm looking at. And then we can have late fees, which we just set up. And you can see that late fees go from May 1st to June 30th, just like we said. You can also set up different sets of fees for a group of people. So in this, I already have an example here of the executive board fees. And you can see they only charge $20 if it's a non-member. Everybody else is free. That's fine. The only thing you'll have to do in advance is set up a group of people that are already in the system. So to set up fees for specific people, they have to be in the system already, and you have to have set them up as a group. Or you can even set up, you can pick individuals and say that an individual would only pay that fee. But so you can see you can have multiple fee sets. Only one fee set can apply to a registration at any point in time. So it's either going to be a late or it's either going to be default. If it's not default, it could be late, or it could be executive board fees, but it can't be more than one at a time. And you can see here, that's why we've got a priority set up, so that in case they would apply to more than one, they're going to get the fee set that is the one that applies to them first in the list. So most people are going to get the default fees first until some other criteria is met, and then it will go down the list until one applies. So you can see the fees are fairly flexible. You've got 2 tiers of fees. You've got caps on family if you like. You can set up specific fees for specific dates or specific people, and pretty flexible there. So let's conclude the fees. There are other ways to add fees, many other ways to add fees, and one of them is age group limits. And this really answers 2 questions. First is how many swimmers can you have in your age group, and not only how many swimmers you want to limit your age group to, but how much they will pay in fees as well. So, for instance, many teams set up their 15 to 18-year-olds as having a smaller fee. And so if you want to say any 15 to 18-year-old that is registering, they're just going to pay $25, you can do that and hit save. And now the default might have been $150 as a registration, but because they're 15 to 18, we capture that on the swimmer form. When they get to checkout, it's only going to be $25 for that swimmer. Note that I could also put in maximums. So I could put in I only want up to 20 6 and under girls, 26 and under boys, 27 to 8-year-old boys, 27 to 8-year-old girls. And what happens during the registration process, once you've hit that number, it will alert the parent to say the age group is full. It will still let them register, and they'll be added basically to a waiting list, but at least they'll know that the area is full. They'll be able to still register that child's information so that you'll have it in case somebody in the first 20 drops out, and of course they can register their other children. And these age groups are flexible. You set them up however you like. You just basically click add a new age group, new row pops up, and you can enter the ages and do that. Once you've set up your limits and such, you can hit save. Oh, and very important is the cutoff date for ages, because most summer leagues have a specific cutoff date. So it doesn't matter what day you're on, what day a swim meet is on. What really matters is the cutoff date for determining the age of a swimmer for that season. So we do that here. So now that we've got the cutoff date set, fees for age group set, and limits, we'll hit save, and we should have most of our fees set up. I will point out, I will cover it in a later section of this video series. However, you can also set up waivers, which can apply fees as well. So if you haven't seen how to set up one of your fees yet, hang on, because we're going to get to that, and it's probably going to be covered.